Hello, my friends. I hope the day has been treating you well, or at least better than that dang line art. So today's video, I will be showing you how to achieve good, high quality line art that is beautiful on its own without color. Good enough to make coloring pages out of it. Here is an example of my most recent piece. So this is a style of line art I like to do, which is very clean, crisp, nice, delicious, delectable. And I will be sharing you my top tips on how you can achieve something similar to this. First major tip that I have for you guys is you need to have a good brush. The type of brush you use will either make it more difficult or easier to achieve good line art. And I will show you an example of an easy to use brush versus harder. So the brush I am using right now is my tailored textured line art brush, which is available for free on my Gumroad. And this is definitely a very beginner friendly line art brush, and let me tell you why. You are able to make very soft strokes, which is handy when you want to draw an object. So for example, a square, and you're able to continue lines without it being too noticeable. And I will show you what this looks like with another brush that I love to use for a long time, but I found it quite difficult to achieve clean line art in the same way. I mean, I still did it because I like to torture myself in that way. So as you can see, it's relatively easy to draw with little ant lines, which we're always told not to do, but it's something I'm gonna go against the grain and say a wild opinion here. I actually would encourage you to do so if it's what comes naturally to you. Some people are great at doing these long perfect strokes, but I know I'm just not built that way, so I like to use little ant lines instead of this because it makes me upset. Let me show you another brush that I would not recommend to people who are currently struggling with line art. This is Harsh Line Art Brush 1, and as you can see immediately, there is a difference. You are still able to do some line variation, but you are not able to get as far as this. Now let me show you what it looks like when I try to do the same thing. Because as you also notice, in this brush there is a little grainy texture, whereas this brush is completely smooth, so you notice all the little imperfections. For example, here, here, and here. And it's a lot harder to achieve that seamless look, especially if you're doing thin lines like on this drawing. This would be a complete pain in the butt if I wanted to use this brush, which I love in its own way, but I have to mentally prepare myself if I am planning on using this brush, if I'm being honest with you. However, that is completely up to you. I suggest you use a brush that you are comfortable with, that you find the best suited to you and your skills. The second tip is the actual technique. So for me, the way I describe my technique is I'd first go in with soft strokes. I'm gonna go in with soft but intentional brush strokes. And what I mean by that is I am thinking inside my brain where I am placing it, and I am trying my hardest to continue that line as smooth as possible. So you should be left with a nice smooth line. You do not need to worry about going too hard at this moment because we will darken up the areas soon. So next I would go in for the necks, which is right here, just like this. Also, when you have like a line that's close to each other, for example in here, a good way to get the lines good and nice is to just go straight over like so, and then you can just erase the unneeded portion. So next what I would do is darken up this little bit in here because it is the outer edge, and that goes into my third tip, which is line variation. Now line variation is very important. I cannot stress this enough because here is an example of a line art without any line variation. Now, this is not necessarily bad or anything, but it is not my personal taste. However, there is, for example, when you zoom out, you can easily tell the characteristics of this character, right? Whereas if you compare it to this one, it's not as apparent, it's a lot softer. But if you're going to be blowing up these images and you're not drawing an icon. For example, icons are a great place for this style of line art. But for me personally, when I'm using big canvases, I like to use varied lines, which is this one. So continuing on with this, as you can see, we have a line variation, and you can see the contrast between this line, and that looks very nice in my opinion. So I'm going to keep in mind that the hair is intersecting right here, so I'm not going to go too harsh here. I'll continue on the hair. Now, because this is the outer edge of the hair, I can go in a bit harder because I will outline it more anyway after. Like so. And for anything you would like to stick out in your drawing, I would recommend going in with a heavier hand. For example, eyes are a big part of my artwork, so I like to spend a lot of time on them. And I will be very, very gentle and go in with a lot of intention at the start, because they're sort of I would say one of the main attractions of my artwork. And it is my favorite part. So I go in light at the beginning, and then of course I darken it later on. My other main tip, which is not as exciting as the other ones, is that honestly, you just have to take your time. Unfortunately, good line art comes a good amount of time taken when completing your line art. For myself, it can take up to 6 hours to finish line art, depending on the complexity, which probably sounds extremely off-putting, and it might just be me because I'm slow, but don't feel bad if you are also one who cannot do it quickly, because it's for a reason. Good quality line art takes a long time for a reason. So that's gonna be all for this video, guys, and you'll see me very soon finish this little line art piece I did. I hope that you found some of these tips useful for you and your line art, and I hope to see ya in the next video. Bye!